Hello Year 6, I'm Mrs Higgins and welcome to English at Avonbourne. English at Avonbourne is really exciting. Every lesson you will need a pen, a highlighter so we can highlight the text, and a reading ruler. You will use this in all of your lessons every time we do some reading, and you'll be given one of these by your tutor. We have a really challenging and exciting curriculum at Avonbourne, and some of the texts you will study in Year 7 are Jane Eyre, The Tempest by William Shakespeare, and a selection of war poetry. Students have really enjoyed these topics this year, and we really hope you will too. Once a fortnight you will have a library/reading lesson and a literacy lesson. Our reading lessons are really popular. We have a whole set of brand new books, enough for a class, so we sit and we read them together. It's a really lovely experience and one the students really enjoy. Literacy at Avonbourne is challenging and fast-paced. It links closely to what you have been doing in your English lessons to make sure you produce the best possible writing. Reading is really important, and we recommend that you read every day. If you'd like to get ready for English at Avonbourne, it's important that you read over the summer. And here are some books we recommend. Why not pop down to your local library and see if you can borrow them? We have Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book, Watership Down by Richard Adams, and Philip Pullman's The Ruby in the Smoke. Next year we'll be looking at short stories. Here's an example of some of the things we may cover. Today we're going to look at Parson's Pleasure, just the opening, and we're going to focus on characterisation. The key question is, how does Roald Dahl, that's the author, convey, the word convey means show, the character of Mr Boggis? During our lessons we often focus on key terminology. So the key term from that question was characterisation, a description of the distinctive nature or features of someone or something. So direct characterisation is where the writer tells us something about the character, and indirect characterisation, where the writer shows us what the character is like through their appearance, thoughts, actions, speech, and the effect they have on others. We are now going to read the opening to the short story Parson's Pleasure by Roald Dahl. As we read, we're going to think about how Dahl conveys the character of Mr Boggis. Mr Boggis stopped the car just short of the summit, got out and looked around. It was perfect. He could see for miles. Over on the right he spotted a medium farmhouse. Beyond it was a larger one. There was a house that might have been a Queen Anne, and there were 2 likely farms over on the left, 5 places in all. Then he drove over to the other side of the hill where he saw 6 more possible, 5 farms and 1 big Georgian house. He ruled out the latter. It looked prosperous, and there was no point calling on the prosperous. Apart from the fact that he was at this moment disguised in the uniform of a clergyman, there was nothing very sinister about Mr Cyril Boggis. By trade he was a dealer in antique furniture, with his own shop and showroom in the King's Road, Chelsea. His premises were not large, and generally he didn't do a great deal of business. But because he always bought cheap, very, very cheap, and sold very, very dear, he managed to make quite a tidy little income every year. He was a talented salesman, and when buying or selling a piece, he could slide smoothly into whichever mood suited the client best. He could become grave and charming for the aged obsequious, for the rich, sober for the godly, masterful for the weak, mischievous for the widow, arch and saucy for the spinster. He was well aware of his gift, using it shamelessly on every possible occasion, and often, at the end of an unusually good performance, It was as much as he could do to prevent himself from turning aside and taking a bow or two as the thundering applause of the audience went rolling through the theatre. In spite of this rather clownish quality of his, Mr. Boggis was not a fool. In fact, it was said of him by some that he probably knew as much about French, English and Italian furniture as anyone else in London. He also had surprisingly good taste, and he was quick to recognise and reject an ungraceful design, however genuine the article might be. Checking our understanding. Question: what have we learned about Mr. Boggis so far? You can write down 4 facts. Please pause the video here to give yourself a chance to do this. Possible facts you could have chosen. He is in disguise as a clergyman, a man working for the church. There's nothing very sinister about him. He is a dealer in antique furniture. He is a talented salesman. He has a shop in the King's Road, Chelsea. He is not a fool. People think he knows a lot about furniture. Clearly, Mr. Boggis is sly. He will do anything to make the sale. And he's particularly deceitful. You can see that he's dressed up as another person. Can you write the opening of a short story? Your story should be about a character who is particularly sly or deceitful. How will your character try to convince others that they are trustworthy? Some key vocabulary for you is sly, deceitful and trustworthy. Should write about 3 paragraphs. We'd really love to see your stories, so please do email them to me. Goodbye for now, Year 6. We're really excited that you are joining us in September, and we look forward to seeing you then.